Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Let's seek the truth and travel the long road to justice together. What you know, Alibiers? Happy Wednesday. Yeah, I just had to look in the corner. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi, taking a break from the Vallow Daybell case today. It's been a lot this week with the Colby stuff, and so I've been sort of following this, what started out as a missing teenager case and turned into two teenagers being arrested for murder, Gabriel Davies and Justin Yoon. Been following that for about a week. First, let's do our song fact of the day, Train. I love the song Drops of Jupiter. And a lot of people kind of wonder what that song was written about. What do the lyrics mean? I'm huge into lyrics. I think in lyrics. Anybody who knows me can attest to that. But the lead singer, Pat Monahan, he said he wrote the song about the loss of his mother. He said, "It was the loss of the most important person in my life, and it was heavy on my mind. And I had the thought of, what if no one ever really leaves? What if she's here but different? The idea was she's back here in the atmosphere." He also says it represents his journey to find himself afterwards, saying the best thing we can do about loss of love is to find ourselves through it. I think that's a really beautiful way of looking at it. So let's get into this case, man. It is insanity. All right. So these two boys right here, Gabriel Davies, who's on the left, and Justin Yoon, who's on the right. These boys have some big charges, and they are charged with first-degree murder, second-degree murder, first-degree burglary. I don't know why I struggle to say that word. Second-degree unlawful possession of a firearm. Two counts of second-degree unlawful possession of a firearm. They were arraigned yesterday. They're being charged as adults. Their bail is set at $1 million. They're considered a flight risk. So there's actually two different timelines in this case, because you have the timeline of when Gabriel was considered missing. I put that in air quotes because he never really was, or disappeared. And then we have the timeline of what actually happened. So I'm going to put on the screen here the initial missing posts that were made. So he was reported missing on August the 31st. And in a press release from Thurston County Sheriff's Office, it says Gabriel is missing under suspicious circumstances. He left his home at 4 p.m. today to attend football practice at Olympia High School, but he never arrived. Gabriel's vehicle has been located, and it was reported the keys were in the ignition and the driver's side door was open. So cops checked the registration and find the car is registered to Gabriel's dad. So they call him. And he says, well, he should be at football practice. And the car was found around 14 miles away from the high school. But inside the car, they found some small amounts of blood. And also his cell phone was smashed on the ground. So just at first glance, it doesn't look good. I remember thinking when I first saw this, oh man, this looks really, really bad. So on September 1st at 7:41 a.m., the Thurston County Sheriff's Office posted that detectives received information that Gabriel was seen walking alone northbound at 5:30 p.m. last night, just north of where his vehicle was found. The Chronicle, which is a local newspaper website, they interviewed the sheriff of Thurston County, and he said that they actually had 5 or 6 calls about seeing an individual walking. And one of the callers said they actually had talked to Gabriel and asked if he was okay, and he said he was fine. So they call in the FBI, Olympia Police Department, and Washington State Parks, as well as search and rescue with bloodhounds to assist them in the search for Gabriel. And Lieutenant Cameron Semper said the information we have thus far is that he drove to this location on his own and he walked away from the vehicle on his own. We have to look at the behavior of an individual, the pattern of behavior, and this is uncharacteristic of Gabriel. We're not going to push this aside as a runaway. That's why we're taking it seriously, and we will explore every tip and avenue to make sure we bring Gabriel home safely. So what's interesting is in the past 6 years, 2 other young men have disappeared within like a 5-mile radius of where Gabriel's truck was found. So if you go back and look at the tweets from like the first day Gabriel's reported missing, locals are saying, oh my gosh, this is number 3. Why aren't the police doing more? So on the left here, we have Logan Schindelman. And on the right, Matthew Enfelt. Both of them went missing in these areas. And as far as I know, that they've never been found, just have disappeared. But this is why the FBI was brought in very early on. I'm going to actually tweet out and Facebook these pictures as well, because I do believe these boys are still missing. So, but this is why they quickly called in the FBI, because at first glance it seems like, hey, I mean, we've got number 3 here. This disappeared in this area. At 12:45 a.m. on September 2nd, Thurston County Sheriff announced on social media that they had located Gabriel, and he had showed up at a house, and the homeowner called 911. So they sent detectives out, obviously, to talk to Gabriel. And he said he had been out wandering for 24 hours. But detectives noticed like he didn't look like he had been out in the elements for 24 hours. He didn't have any cuts or scrapes on his feet. He was barefooted. And I believe he didn't have his shirt on. But they returned him to his family. So here's the real timeline, right? Because we all know that was hogwash. All right. So August 27th, we're going to go backwards. Gabriel and Justin both go camping at Panther Lake in Mason County. August 28th at 12 a.m., Gabriel and Justin leave the cabin and return back at 6:30 a.m. And at 11:45 a.m., they leave the campground, don't come back. 2 a.m. on the 28th, Gabriel and Justin are seen entering the victim Daniel's house, who, by the way, is an ex-fiance of Gabriel's mom. So at 2:41, 1 minute after, or I'm sorry, 41 minutes after the boys are seen entering the house, Daniel is seen exiting the garage and going back inside. A minute later, the boys are seen leaving from the side door. So between August 29th and September 1st, the victim, Daniel McCraw, he doesn't show up for work, which isn't like him. August 31st, 4 o'clock, Gabriel leaves for football practice. 5:10, they determine that's the last time he used his cell phone. 5:30, that's when they get the information that Gabriel's truck was found. 6:30, that's when he's seen walking on the road, does not seem distressed or injured. The next day, September 1st, the FBI is reviewing Gabriel's cell phone records. At 9:30 on the 1st, police, 9:30 in the morning, by the way, police respond to a welfare check called in by coworkers or his supervisor, and they find Daniel's body and realize he's the victim of a homicide. 10 p.m. that night, that's when Gabriel's found and reunited with his family. He was already actually considered a suspect when they returned him home. They already had him on their radar. So September 2nd, 8 o'clock that night, Gabriel and Justin both are arrested and booked officially at 11:08 p.m. into the juvenile detention facility. So the probable cause affidavit was very easy to read. Sometimes these things can get very convoluted and you have to read them 4 or 5 times, but it was super easy to read. So it says, on September 1st, 2022, Pierce County Sheriff's deputies responded to a residence in Pierce County for a welfare check on Daniel McCraw after he failed to show up to work for 4 straight shifts. Deputies knocked but got no answer after multiple attempts, and they smelled what they thought to be a decaying body from the closed front door of the house. They also saw a German Shepherd running inside the house and out into the backyard through a dog door. I always think too about the poor little animals that are stuck at home with no food and like their owners dead. Because I mean, animals, like they feel stuff, except for cats. Like I fake fell on the floor one time to see like what my animals would do. And my dogs come sniffing, the cats like literally walked over me. Cats. Somebody said it would be a good idea to get one. Sherlock is good. These kittens, like I've had it, y'all. Not even kidding. All right. So deputies found an unsecured door on the east end of the house that led into the laundry room. and they made partial entry and noted possible blood spatter on the washing machine or dryer just inside that door. And the door was partially blocked. So when deputies entered further into the room, they see Daniel's body on the floor. They observed a significant amount of blood surrounding his body. So they call the fire department and they come in and confirm that Daniel is deceased. The fire personnel located a single spent shell casing near Daniel's body and saw a possible gunshot wound to the temple area of the victim's head. They had not found a gun near him, but there were no signs of forced entry into the house. So initially, they thought it looked to be a suicide, but additional investigation revealed the victim had been both shot and stabbed. So, and it says here, 2 juvenile males were later identified as the suspects who committed the murder, defendant Gabriel Davies and defendant Justin Yoon. Both defendants are under the age of 18. So it says the victim was found lying with his head resting on or near his left shoulder / upper arm. His right arm was extended away from his body and bent at the elbow with his right palm on the laundry room floor. Detectives located a single .45 caliber shell casing on the floor behind the victim's left shoulder. They also located a live .45 caliber round on the floor and a second expended shell casing on the floor near the west wall of the room. There was decomposition to the victim's upper body and head, and maggots were visible along the neck and shoulders. When detectives checked the detached shop, they found an empty, large caliber rifle magazine on the garage floor. A drum-style magazine with what appeared to be a .556 caliber ammunition was seen on the floor near that magazine. I'm going to throw up his house on here. Pictures are credit of King 5 News. The southernmost room of the building contained numerous gun cases and ammunition reloading equipment. During the early stages of the investigation, detectives learned from the victim's supervisor that the victim had previously been in a relationship with a female identified as Gabriel's mom. Ding, ding, ding. The supervisor felt this information was important because at this point, Gabriel was missing and had been reported missing on the 31st. So Pierce County Sheriff's investigators contacted Thurston County detectives who were investigating Gabriel's disappearance. They were advised that Gabriel's vehicle had been recovered in Thurston County and the car had exterior damage and suspected blood was found on the steering wheel as well as the driver's door panel. Thurston County deputies also located Gabriel's cell phone, which was smashed in the roadway we know near the car. So the Thurston County detective who had been investigating Gabriel's disappearance was later contacted by the father of the co-defendant, Justin Yoon. Justin's father claimed to have information about a crime in which Gabriel was involved. It was later reported that Justin had information regarding a homicide involving Gabriel that occurred in Pierce County. So based on that information, and based upon the information, the victim had been in a relationship with Gabriel's mother. The Pierce County detectives determined that the victim, Daniel, was the homicide victim who was referenced by Justin's father in that call. So as part of Thurston County's missing persons investigation, a detective spoke with members of Gabriel's family who told him that Gabriel and Justin had gone camping at Panther Lake with other friends and family between the 27th and 28th of August. Family members reported that they left the cabin a little after midnight and returned to the cabin about 6:30. They then left Panther Lake again at 11:45 in the morning and never came back. So when Thurston County detectives checked Gabriel's room at his home for any clues about his disappearance, they found a single spent 9mm shell casing. And that shell casing was not collected at that time because it just wasn't deemed to be part of the missing person investigation. At that point, the victim's death was unknown to any law enforcement agency. So when Pierce County detectives later processed the homicide scene, they not only recovered the live .45 caliber round and expended .45 caliber shell casing, they also located a second expended shell casing from the floor in the utility room, and it was a, guess what, 9mm shell casing, which let them know 2 guns were used in this. Now, I find it curious when you're investigating what you believe to be a missing teenager and you find a shell casing that you don't grab it, you know, because at this point they knew he had walked away from his truck. It's just, for all they knew, he could have, been wanting to harm himself or something. But anyway, so investigators recovered a DVR for the surveillance system at Daniel's house. He had one set up. 2 empty gun holsters were also found in Daniel's house, and they searched the house and could not find any handguns associated with those empty holsters. It was later determined the defendants had stolen the 2 firearms from the residence and disposed of them in Thurston County. So the MDI for the medical examiner's office, who arrived to take custody of Daniel's body, found what appeared to be a single gunshot wound to the right side of his head. It was about 3 inches behind his right ear. And other defects, obviously, we talked about, were found on his abdomen and chest, which were stab wounds. Defects in the victim's shirt were consistent with the defects on his abdomen and chest. And insect activity around the victim's neck also indicated that he may have had injuries to his throat. Due to the condition of the body and the level of decay, it was difficult to clearly see injury margins, and it was difficult to tell what happened to that neck area, and if it was an injury or if it was due to decomposition. The one thing I learned watching Forensic Files, and if you're kind of new to the podcast, like, I am obsessed with Forensic Files in the first 48, but like, areas where injuries occur tend to decompose first. So blood spatter patterns on the wall, while not completely analyzed at that time, were consistent with cast off blood and with homicidal violence. So there was an initial indication that the blood may have come from more than one source. After the victim's body was removed, no firearms were located on him, under him, or around him, eliminating the possibility that it was a suicide. So September 1st, Pierce County detectives learned that at approximately 10 p.m. that day, Thurston County deputies located Gabriel, and this was 3 miles from where his vehicle had been found. When Gabriel was located, he was wearing shorts, did not have on a shirt, shoes, or socks. Thurston County Sheriff's detectives noted, however, that Gabriel had no injuries to his feet or lower extremities that would be consistent with walking in the woods for 36 hours. So Gabriel initially told a detective he couldn't remember what happened to him or where he had been during his disappearance. He later stated he could not say what happened to him because people were going to hurt him. Then Gabriel admitted to damaging his own cell phone because he was afraid that the police were going to find what was on it. Pierce County detectives later examined that surveillance footage from the DVR they had removed from Daniel's house, and they found that at around 1:59 a.m. on the 28th, 2 suspects that appeared to be young, skinny males approached the victim's house from the backyard. One male appeared to have pepper spray on his belt, and they crawled into the residence through the dog door. Lord have mercy, that is scary. The victim can be seen exiting his detached garage at approximately 2:41 a.m. He then stumbled, and they put that in quotes, into the residence. At 2:47, the victim's dog suddenly ran out of the dog door. 1 minute later, both suspects exited the residence through the side door. The suspects ran back and forth to the garage before fleeing at approximately 2:52 a.m. I got that wrong up top. So Daniel stumbles out at 2:41, and then it was a minute after the dog ran out. So 2:48, there were a few minutes there before they left. So finally, they appeared to be carrying items, including a possible handgun, as seen on that surveillance. And detectives obtained photos of both Gabriel and Justin to compare them to the 2 males that were seen on surveillance entering the home through the dog door. and they confirmed that they believe it was Gabriel and Justin. And the individual believed to be Justin was wearing dark clothing, a ski mask of unknown color, and dark Adidas shoes with 3 noticeable stripes. The individual believed to be Gabriel was wearing an unknown color trucker style hat, a long sleeve shirt, excuse me, and dark pants. Both suspects appeared to be wearing gloves. Additionally, both appeared to be carrying something away from the scene to include a military style ammo box or can or similarly sized toolbox. I don't know what y'all would do if I got through one episode without butchering either a very difficult name or a very common word. Oh, well. On or about September 2nd, Gabriel's father called the lead Thurston County detective and provided the following information: that Gabe was involved in Daniel's death. I don't know where this dad came up with this story, but he has watched like one too many B movies. The father said that his son was approached by the victim's biker buddies to steal something from the victim's residence. He further stated they threatened his son with harm if he didn't do it. Gabriel then confided into Justin, and the two developed a plot to steal the items from the safe. On Saturday night or Sunday morning, the two went to Daniel's house and snuck in through the dog door. The dad reported that his son knew where the victim's gun was kept and said when the victim came into the house, Justin ran after him and stabbed him. And he said Gabe heard a gunshot. He reported that his son told him that he went out to the garage to get the item out of the safe and heard the second gunshot. His dad reported that Gabriel told him the gun used in the incident was ditched near his home. Oh, man. The dad also said that his son claimed the victim's biker buddies, who he said were members of a very specific outlaw motorcycle club, followed him on Wednesday and pulled him out of his car at the location on Tilley Road where the car was found. So Gabriel told his dad that the blood in the truck was from the bikers smashing his face against the interior of the car. They also reportedly put him in a Suburban and drove him around, roughing him up before releasing him. And this is like, I don't know if the dad or the kid came up with it, but I don't know, dude. It sounds to me a little more like maybe the kid. The father also said his son told him that the motorcycle club members took his shirt and shoes and then went through his truck looking for whatever item had been stolen from the victim. And Gabriel told his dad they actually never stole anything. This is the dumbest story ever. So Pierce County detectives obtained and served warrants to search the residence of both the boys. Both the boys were at their homes at the time and were arrested without incident. It says, with the assistance of his attorney, defendant Gabriel later showed detectives where he and Justin disposed of 2 firearms they had stolen from the residence. They were found inside a military-style ammunition can and were identified as the 2 firearms that matched up to the empty holsters that they found inside Daniel's house. One firearm was identified as a 9mm and the other was a .45 caliber. Both guns were registered to Daniel and neither gun had a magazine in it, but 3 magazines were found in that ammo box. The magazine for the 9mm had 5 unfired rounds inside of it, and the other had 7 unfired rounds. And the magazine for the .45 did not have any rounds in it at all. So detectives also found a small bag that had 12 throwing knives and another pouch that had 6 throwing knives. An additional 3 knives were found in their sheaths. So the autopsy at the time this was filed has not yet been completed on the victim. However, the detective who was observing the autopsy provided the following information. The medical examiner reported that x-rays of the victim's body showed that he had 2 projectiles in his body. One was lodged in his head and the other in his abdomen. The medical examiner pointed out a defect behind the victim's right ear, which he believes was the entry wound for the bullet that was lodged in his head. He had not found the entry wound for the projectile located in Daniel's abdomen, though. The medical examiner also said he or she found a defect on the top of the victim's right shoulder, 7 defects in his chest that appeared to be stab wounds. He also located a defect in the victim's left armpit that he also identified as a stab wound, and several similar small wounds along the victim's right wrist and forearm, which obviously is like defensive wounds, sticking your arms up. So here's the thing. All right. So these boys are, they're in jail, but there was a GoFundMe that was set up for Gabriel on Saturday for his legal defense. And get this, before it was taken down for violating like policy, it had raised $21,000 before Sunday afternoon. It was up for like a day, $21,000. Some of the locals there thought that they should have left it up because they say innocent until proven guilty. And like, if he needs money for a defense, he needs money for a defense. But GoFundMe was like, nope, not on our website. They don't allow anyone who is suspected of a violent crime to raise money. So the donations will be returned. Now, here's what's interesting, and this probably is going to come into play. In May of 2021, the Washington State Supreme Court, in a 5-4 ruling, ruled that mandatory life without parole sentences are unconstitutional for offenders younger than 21 years old. 21 years old, y'all, saying it violates the 8th Amendment protection against cruel and unusual punishments, and judges must be allowed to exercise their discretion to craft an individualized sentence considering the mitigating qualities of youth. And it's a whole ruling that like you can go read. They essentially just bring up the science that brains aren't fully developed until you're in your mid-20s. But 21, in America, we consider 18 to be a legal adult. And I guess you have people who just say the brain's not developed, but right from wrong is pretty easy. When you go and cover up things and stage a disappearance to try to, and then you come up with this stupid story about a biker gang, outlaw biker gang that roughs you up, a 16-year-old kid up. Insanity. So we'll keep an eye on this one. They're going to be tried as adults. So the hearing yesterday, they were on camera. This is one to watch. I'm just curious about the motive, because you think about it. Is it just that he didn't like the guy, or did he know the guy? I'm just very curious as to why. I don't think it was a biker gang, but anyways, guys, that's all for today. I just wanted to go ahead and kind of do like a baseline story on this, just getting kind of the facts as we know them out there. And because I really do want to watch this one. Tomorrow, Thursday, probably we'll be back with the mega series. Friday, we'll finish out the week and maybe start getting close to finishing out this mega series. We're getting down to the end of December. We know she was arrested in February, but then again, we got to do, no, we're not done because we have Wagner supposedly starting on Tuesday. We do know that somebody was sick. That was one of the attorneys or prosecutors for the case. And so hopefully they're better and we can get this going. And I think the judge on Friday is going to issue a written ruling about this media audio motion. So hopefully we'll know Friday as well what he's going to do about that. So anyways, all right, I got to go pick up my middle schooler, chill with her the rest of the afternoon. Hope you have a good one.